I'm so excited for today. Joanne helped me bring my dream to life and to help me bring my message to the world through self-publishing. And I really am excited. We're going to do something a little bit different today, aren't we, Joanne?
We are. This is pretty, well, I don't know if it's unique, but we like to think it is.
Yes, I'm going to ask Joanne a few questions because I know I've been asked by my community a lot of questions about writing a book, and Joanne's going to ask me some questions too. So it's almost like this dual interview. Hey.
Yeah. You get both sides. You get the publishing side and you get the author side. You get both perspectives today.
So I know a lot of questions have been coming through, and they are all about, so how did you make that decision between self-publishing and publishing? And I'd love to ask you, Joanne, on your take on what the pros and cons are of each, and how do you make that decision? How do you know that you want to go self-publishing or traditional publishing? Can you shed a little bit more light for us that just have no idea about the book world like I do?
I know, I just assume everybody does, but not everybody does, which is fair enough. And I've worked in publishing and have qualifications in publishing. I can see both sides now, and we're just so lucky now that we have self-publishing as an option, because years ago, you could self-publish, but you'd have to, it was much harder to get it out there, to get it distributed. Whereas now, if you self-publish, you not only have creative control, but you can get it out because you've got all these online places to do so. So traditional publishing is where you go to it doesn't have to be a major publishing house, but a publishing house who's already set up, and they have resources for doing editing and design, and they have reps who go out to bookstores and can influence what goes on the shelves of bookshops. But everybody wants to be published by a traditional publisher because there's cachet with that. It's like, I've been chosen, they thought I was good enough. And really what traditional publishers are doing, yes, they're doing a great benefit to the world culturally and socially, but they are also there to make money. So they're going to take on books that they know are going to sell well. And that often means that you have to have, if you're a business person, and we're sort of talking mostly about business people today wanting to self-publish or publish a non-fiction book that helps promote their business. We're not really talking about fiction today. Or memoirs or anything like that for just family purposes. This is to get your message out into the world for your work. If you have a big following of people already, so a large list, so to speak, they would very favourably look upon that because they think, well, there's already a market there that's going to make us money, which is fine. That's absolutely wonderful. And they do have, a big distribution network. However, they do, again, it's hard to get in, and they do have a lot of creative control. I've had a couple of books published by a publisher here in Australia, and I didn't really get a lot of say over anything, I don't think. I'm trying to think. An illustrator is part of that, and he was great. I was very lucky that he was a fabulous illustrator. So I wasn't really happy with the front cover of the first one. It's okay, but I would have loved to have seen other copies, other mock-ups, and maybe to have had some say in the design. The second book cover, luckily, I absolutely loved it. So that was a winner. It again, it was all out of my control. So with self-publishing, you can do anything you want and have all the input you want to have, so you've got so much control. And you can also distribute it all over the world. So you can get it into bookstores if you want to. It's just much harder in the bricks and mortar bookstores, the ones you walk into, the airport bookstores, that sort of thing. But really, if you're doing a book for a particular market, you may not want it to be mass market anyway. You might just want it to be in front of the people who are likely to be your ideal clients. So that's often the online world is how we reach those people. They may not all be in our local community. So you'll still have your book published on Amazon. So when it comes to having creative control, that is absolutely wonderful. The only downside is that you are paying for that. You are investing in it. And if you want a high quality book that looks and reads like a traditionally published book, that's going to be an investment. So you sort of got to weigh it up. You can do it on the cheap, but you're probably going to end up with a cheap looking product. And if that's not what your brand is, if it's not reflecting your brand well, then to me, that's a bit of a waste of money. You're better off doing it right.
Yeah.
And
I think if you go
time.
through that whole process too of writing a book, getting your message down, you want to produce something of high quality. You want your reputation to be intact. So, still at the end of the day, like I totally agree. I think you want to, and that's why I spoke to you, was that I wanted a high quality book. I wanted to self-publish because I didn't have that platform initially. I'm still building that. Again, as you mentioned, creative control. I had total creative control over
exactly.
The cost, the timeline, how it was marketed. So, I think.
And the thing is, even if you get published by a traditional book publisher, especially as a new or early author, you are expected to do all the marketing anyway. Like you might get mentioned in their catalogue or in their something that goes with the reps, but you're out there, sister. I was like that with my first book. I was expected to. I think I was given one thing from the press department, one article opportunity. That was kind of it. Everything else was my work. So that's the thing. You're the one doing all the work and they're taking a larger cut, which is fair enough because they've covered all the expenses of producing it. However, if it really is important to you, and for some people it's, I was published by a big name, and that's fine. But if you self-publish first and show and, get good results with it, great sales, get it out there, that is very attractive to a traditional publisher. Lots of people have done that. Self-published first, sold the heck out of it and done super well, got it out there to their community, changing the world. And then they take it to a publisher who's like, yes, please, come on board. We'll have a piece of that. So that is an option. And it is nice to have the cachet of having a publisher who's, taken work, and because it is seen as valuable. But you don't have to wait for someone else to say yes to your dream.
Absolutely.
Because you know this, if you want to write a book, it's in you and it keeps nagging away in the back of your mind, I want to write that book, and you're seeing everybody else do it. Everyone you follow online is like, oh my God, she's bringing out a book. And then you see their launch and the marketing they're doing and FOMO and
actually, there were so many people saying, how did I start? And for me, I know it was more about setting a goal and just sitting down, writing and creating that habit. For those that that know that they've got that little voice in their back saying you need to share your message with the world through a book, how do they actually start? What's the process? Because I know a lot of people have asked me, and for me, I just say, oh, it's just a habit. I just did it, and I was very proactive in it. But some that are
you had a great system. And I think the important thing is with the writing piece, and I'll tell you about each stage, but the writing piece, it is important to pay attention to you, like to know. And it's such a journey. I know it sounds like a bit of a cliche, but it is a real journey of transformation, writing a book, because it's not necessarily easy. It's a big project. If you're an expert in one field, doesn't mean you're an expert in this. You may not be the world's, will feel like you're the world's best writer, but you can express yourself fairly well. And you think, I think I can do this, but it's just a mind game. So you have to know what works for you with other projects. How does it work best? Do you do little bits at a time? Do you just think, no, I need to block out full days and just dive in fully and go into an Airbnb and tell the family I'm not answering the phone for a day or something? You've got to do what works for you, and that definitely worked for you, doing that little bit every day, which is fantastic.
I know a lot of people also work on, depending on their human design or their cycle, for instance, they have ways that they work. So it's almost looking at what they've traditionally done and what's worked for them, and then actually applying that to their writing.
Exactly. I mean, it can be a joy writing, but as with everything, it may not always be that way. So it's getting through that, and I recommend having accountability and somebody who knows that you're doing it and you're sort of aware that you've made a commitment. You're not wanting to let yourself down and sort of be shown up. I think that's a big factor.
When I was writing my manuscript, I think it took me 3 months just to get it all down with that, just, having that daily habit of just writing. It took me 3 months to get my first draft down. But then when I looked at my draft, I was like, what do I do with it now? I've obviously got to get an editor to help me kind of give it structure. And, we worked through what my vision was, my purpose, and we really gave it, chapter by chapter. And that took, up to 6 months. And I remember balking at that time frame, but it flew by so quickly. And, the growth and the journey of writing a book has been incredible. But I've grown through so much too, because you're learning along the way. I know I'd love to hear about timeframes, because I know a lot of people are saying, well, how long did it take you to write a book? I know everyone's different. People have, different lifestyles and everything. For me, being a mum, like it took ages to do, that editing process and get through it. And then, when I spoke to you, we connected and we did the publishing, route. That in itself had another time frame to it. So generally speaking, how long would it take to do the editing process and then the publishing process?
Well, it does vary. Traditional book publishers, it can take like 18 months. It just depends because they've got so many things. And also if they're printing the books offshore, they're not doing print on demand the way that self-publishing generally is. You can do printing yourself if it's like a full colour glossy sort of cookbook and you want it to be to a certain quality, certain paper, certain stock. You can have it printed yourself, but I generally recommend print on demand for most books that are more text-based, which is quicker for printing. So what I do, and not everybody does this, but I recommend having a planning session at the start. And I generally, with my private clients, have a planning VIP day where we just look at everything to do, whatever you've been thinking. You'll tell me beforehand. I'll have been starting to generate ideas and doing research for you. And then we come together and we look at your target market. We look at the message you're wanting to get out, how this book is going to connect to your business, because you kind of have to keep that in mind if it is a book to promote your business. And look at the competition, but not spending too much time on that, just seeing what their approach is. And a golden tip here is looking at the Amazon reviews for books that are your competition and seeing what people are saying. There might be some things that are missing that they've not covered on the topic that you are going to be covering. And that could be valuable for you to make sure you incorporate and highlight in your marketing.
Yeah, good tip.
That is really, really handy. And it can also be talking about the way they've expressed it and all that sort of thing. So it's really useful, but don't stay too long in that because you want to stay true to your path and stay in your lane. But it is wise to know what is out there now. So once you've got, and also part of the plan is looking at a production timeline. So, okay, let's spend this long on writing, this long on editing, and each step subsequently, and the book should then be released at this time. And you might time it to be with an event, say International Women's Day, or it might be a pre-Christmas launch, so you bring it out in October so you can really be marketing it up through the pre-Christmas selling season. So, but
that's what we did. Mine was for Mothers, and we kind of lined it up with Mother's Day. So we did.
That's right.
Getting up to it. Yeah.
That's right. So people could purchase before the day. Another golden tip is to put a buffer into your timeline. Yeah. Because life happens. So I always put in, an extra week or two or a bit more sometimes in each stage, just to allow, because things do happen. Technology breaks down. Something happens in your family and you need to just take time out for a little bit. And if you still want to stay on track as far as possible for that deadline, just give yourself time. Don't rush these things, because as you said, if this is part of your legacy, then this is worth investing time and money in.
Absolutely.
Give it the care it deserves.
And I couldn't agree more. Like having that buffer, and mum, life happens. Your children get unwell. For me, trying to keep that energy going and keep the process going. It was always nice to know that if we were a few days behind, it's okay. We can catch up because we do have that buffer. I totally agree, because everyone's life is so chaotic some days or some weeks and months. So
exactly, especially if you're a business owner, you've got things happening, with clients and with the marketing, and there's a lot happening. So also with writing and with the whole production of your book, you should be keeping in mind that if you are running a business, that is a big deal. And this is a big project. So don't take on too much during this period. Really give it some space. because it is tempting to think, oh, I'll just, I'll do another program or whatever. And it might also be that you are creating a program that's the upsell from your book. So that's already something to factor in if you don't have that already planned and ready to go. So, just be gentle with yourself. It's really something you need, and pay attention to your energy and your health, because it's a marathon. The book production is a marathon, and then the book marketing, which we'll speak about in a minute, is also a marathon, and you need to have energy for that. And I see even, big name people who are out there who've had their book deals done and they've done big launches. They're taking time off because they're just wiped out because it's so big, and they've got huge teams.
Yeah.
But having said that, you don't need to put your book off forever, because,
right.
there'll always be something, won't there? It's just making a priority for a year. Just say it's okay, next year, that's it.
And once you set that intention, that's, just flows from there too. So
we've done our book plan, which not everybody does, but I just think, especially if you're putting off, if you've been writing bits and bobs, bits and pieces of your book and not making real progress and you're procrastinating, it's often because you don't have complete clarity about your message and what you're trying to say in the book. And so if you've done a plan, you've got that clarity, you've done a lot of that pre-thinking, and you might have made realizations about, actually, I realize now the focus needs to be a little, just tiny bit this way. That's it. And the relief of like, now, I feel really confident speaking about that. That's actually really useful. And I've got feedback from people, because you could do a little bit of market research with your community that you do have, and just see what they think about certain things you're planning on writing about. And then that will just really fuel you, so you can have your chapter outline, knowing that this plan is just a loose structure and it will evolve throughout the writing of the book. It will. So having that plan is such a great idea. And then writing, how long is a piece of string? As we said, everyone's schedule is different, but it could be 3 months, it could be 6 months, it could be longer. Depends on your time, on your family and all that sort of thing. But let's say 3 months, then that's if you've got some concentrated blocks of time. You can see, okay, I've had a mastermind finishing there that I'm not having to run anymore. So I'm going to really focus on writing just for 3 months, really like 2 days a week and every evening, and 1 day a weekend or something. And then editing, generally, including a buffer, and depending on the length of your book, probably 2 months.
Yeah.
And at the end of the 2 months, what I do is, and that allows for sort of corrections coming back, or questions, queries, author queries, you having time to answer them, the editor having time to input them, tidy it up, send it back to you again to check. So there's still a lot happening. It's still intense in that editorial period. Marketing, I tend to do this at the end of the editing period, once we know, because things can even evolve a bit during the editing period. It might be that the editor spots something that you maybe haven't thought of, and so you add that in. And so things might still evolve and slightly change from the original focus. So for the end of that period, when the book is like, okay, this is pretty much how it's going to be when it comes out, that's what you're going to be marketing, that concept and that feel for the book. So we do a marketing plan then, where we look back at the original plan, look at the target market. Yep, that's still the same, or it's slightly changed. And then who are we going to get this out to? How are we going to do this? Who are we going to approach to be on podcasts, or what blogs are we going to write, or, all sorts of different marketing media things that you can plan for. And that also informs the cover design. So we would brief very thoroughly, so that we are sure of getting close to what we want, the cover and internal design, and have that over about a month after the editing. And then once we're happy with how that design's going to look, we filter into the layout. This is for a print book. Ebooks are a bit different. You only need the cover design, really.
Yeah.
You would have a couple of months for layout, so that the designer's got time to flow it all into their program, add any images and illustrations and little graphics and things that are part of your branding, and for it to be checked. And there's loads of checking that goes on, and tweaking and slight movements and things of layout. And then to upload to a print-on-demand supplier, not a printer, we allow about a month, just in case there was an issue and we need to get another copy printed and checked, because you're often waiting for them to come in the post. And then once you're happy with them, you press go and order bulk copies for yourself. So allow about a month for that. And those are going to be sprinkled out into the world to people who've helped you with the book, maybe people who provided endorsements or contributions to the book, reviews, people who might be, you know, influential and able to share your message, give them a free copy and hope that they'll share it with their community or encourage them to. And then, yeah, launch. So that's about 10 months, and that's only allowing 3 months for writing. Yeah. So we are talking about a high quality book here. So it could be churned out much more quickly, you know, especially if, you know, there are sort of write a book in a weekend things, and they might be fine, but my approach has always been that if it's worth doing, it's worth doing well and putting the time and care investment into it. Absolutely. So, I mean, book publishing companies do that. So why don't you, if you want a similar quality book?
Yeah, that's a really good overview, and it gives people, you know, a really good understanding of, you know, the process, because I think people think, oh, write a book, you know, you just write it down, get it edited, you know, get it published. You know, there's so many elements, and that's one thing I learned along the way. And you're right, having a plan in place was super important. It brought everything together. It gave it structure. You know, I think people buy a book for a reason, and, you know, or if it sounds interesting, or if they see like it's an answer to a question that they're having. You know, I think, you know, as authors, we kind of need to shape our book around that need, while being true to our vision too. So yes. I found having a plan and a structure around it definitely helped that process and keeping you in line and in check the whole way through. So.
Exactly. Well, that's what I do. That's the process I follow for my private clients. But I am looking at running group programs where we do it together, do the planning as a VIP day as a group, and then the writing maybe 10 to 12 weeks, so that you have to submit, say, every week something to me, and I will, you know, a certain number of words, I will edit the first couple of pages and then just make comments throughout the rest and send it back to you. And that will help inform the next chapter that you're writing, or a further down chapter, and also help improve your writing, because I'll sort of pick up the odd little thing about how things could be expressed, and you'll find yourself improving as you go. And then you've also got the accountability of the group, and you're helping each other out. You might be giving each other feedback on the calls, and then Facebook group. So I'm looking forward to running those.
That's like a brilliant idea. It's something I would have loved to have. You know, I know I was just dealing with people just, you know, one-on-one. I think having a group mentality would definitely.
There's something special about it.
Yeah, you're right. It would be special. Yeah.
I'll focus on you and your experience of writing.
Yeah, of course.
Because I know that, as you said, you've had a lot of people asking you about your experience of writing the book and what was involved and all that sort of thing. So I just want to know if you can remember the moment when you realised you were going to write a book.
Oh,
I know you said before it fell out of you. Tell me more.
I do mention that a book did just fall out of me, and what I mean by falling out was that my book is about my journey and as a mum. And I think when I was writing that down and I was sharing that message with other mothers, and I started piecing it all together, I started to share my story and my experiences from my personal life, and then how I fixed it. And then I thought, this is a group program, but it could be something else too. It could also be a really good book. And then I thought, you know, there's a beautiful message in here. So I remember getting, as I said, that kind of first draft down, but I remember thinking that it was going to be a group program. I remember running down to my husband, and I had this moment where I was like, Al, I've got everything down on paper, but I think it can be a book. What do you reckon? And he's like, go for it. Like, I think it's just, you know, a beautiful way to actually share your message, you know, on a bigger level and have a bigger impact if it's in that form. And I'm like, brilliant. What do I do now?
So for anyone who might be listening who doesn't know about the book, can you tell us what it is about and who it's for and how it helps them?
Yes, yes, of course.
This is it.
Oh, yes.
Pretty book.
It's such a beautiful book. I'm so proud of it. It really is. So it's called Dawn Warrior, The Modern Mama's Guide to Harnessing Your Power and Creating a Life You Love. And so it's for new mothers with like a young family. And, you know, I think the adjustment to motherhood is so difficult because there's all these multiple shifts that happen. You know, a new baby means a new mum, a new dad, a new family, and your whole dynamics change and your whole world gets flipped upside down. So, you know, you kind of generally, you know, you go through this process where you kind of put yourself last. Yeah, very last, at the bottom of the pile. You start comparing yourself and you find that your life kind of goes on hold. And I think many new mums believe that they just have to wait till the years go by to kind of get this other life back or to move forward with their new goals. And only then there'll be all this time and energy to, you know, pursue their career, to do their hobbies and everything. And what my book is about is that you don't have to wait. You know, the Dawn Warrior Path is a system and a proven program with two key benefits that support each other. And the first is reclaim your energy and nurture yourself now. Plan and achieve your ideal life one morning at a time. So that's where Dawn Warrior comes in. And the book's filled with all these affirmations and guided meditations, and it's filled with planning tools and exercises for mums to really help them enjoy motherhood and really focus on their own awakening and development at the same time. So that's what my book's all about.
I know. And what I love is the perspective you bring in this, that motherhood can be seen as actually a huge gift because you get to transform and you get to grow. It's like writing a book, you know, not that's quite the same, but
exactly right.
it can be a challenge.
Yeah,
but it's
you've got all these new opportunities. You're right. And when you look at those, if you can look at the challenges as opportunities and see that you are evolving through it, it is this beautiful gift. And, you know, sometimes having the know-how to handle that can help. And that's what my book is, you know, providing the step-by-step.
And you're showing your children, you're role modeling for them. I mean, right from the very start. You don't have to reach rock bottom, which you speak about reaching your rock bottom in this book. Oh, my goodness me. You don't have to do that. There will be challenging times, but if you can set up this supportive structure for yourself, oh, my goodness. And it doesn't have to be dawn. I know some people who are more night owls might balk at that, but you say, you know, it doesn't have to be dawn, but you do give a really good, powerful argument for the power of dawn. So
there's a lot of evidence.
Read the book and find out if you haven't read it.
There's a lot of evidence, and I'm a bit of a research nerd, and I think it's important to know that, you know, my journey isn't just my thoughts, it's also backed up by a lot of research and evidence-based research. So
and that is a really good idea to have that. For anyone who's writing a book about something that might benefit from proof, you know, in that sense, that it's not just your journey, it's actually this has been shown to be beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, in a powerful way. Yeah. So tell us a bit about your journey. So you were writing a group program and you realised it's actually a book, and then you thought, okay, I need some help. I don't know what I'm doing. Hey, what do I do?
Yeah.
And you found somebody to help you. Lovely
lady.
So
I engaged with a editor. So once I got it all, the first draft down, I engaged with an editor. She gave me the structure around, you know, finding my purpose and my vision and how I wanted this book to kind of go out into the world, because, you know, your book has its own journey and its own life as well. So, and I feel like every book has its own soul. So to be able to bring that message and that to fruition and visualize that and how that's going to be in the world, I think that's super important as well. Sometimes you get bogged down with those small details, and sometimes it's nice just to look at the bigger visual as well.
Yes. And to get another perspective.
Absolutely. And we really sat down and worked out, you know, the target audience and gave it, you know, by chapter, making sure it all flowed together in a chronological order as well. So and then once I had that down, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to have to publish it. How am I going to do this? And I remember one of the girls from Oh My Digital were like, oh, Joanne from Rich Life by Design came up on my feed. Maybe you should contact her. And I said, oh, what a brilliant idea. And I'm so glad I did, because having a publishing consultant take you through that process, because this is my first publishing venture. I have no idea about you know, the world of books and, you know, what the process is to get it into, you know, bookstores, local bookstores. So it was all an unknown for me, quite scary as well. So to have someone walk you through that process, and which is exactly what you did, and helping going through and editing it all, restructuring a little bit, so it flowed, and then going through that book design and then the marketing plan as well. So it was everything that kind of came together with you as well. So
yes, and I love the design aspect. I think you really enjoyed in this, didn't you?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It was
you found that
one of my favorite parts.
picture.
I loved it, and it even aligns with my brand as well. So the designer had used my branding colors, used my fonts, used everything, so it all looks cohesive across my brand.
I really enjoyed our marketing day too, and that you have been so proactive and got in there and implemented, because you can have a plan, but if it doesn't get implemented, it's worthless. So you have been prolific. You've been amazing. You had the most beautiful book launch, which I was fortunate and blessed to be able to attend, and just you're doing everything. You're contacting people, you're getting a message out there to the world, and that's what it's about. And as we know, it is hard work getting the book done, or it can be hard work. I don't necessarily want to say it is,
but the marketing and after it,
the marketing is another job in itself. And I often say it is a marathon, not a sprint. Don't think that you have to do absolutely everything in that plan out of the gate. Give yourself a couple of years even to just doing 5 things a day or whatever you can manage to just focus on the marketing of the book. It might be just sending one email to contact a pitch to a podcast host and all that sort of thing. But you can do little sprints within that overall marathon. So if okay, I've got a bit of free time here, or the kids have gone off to the grandma's for a week, I can just, if I can book 3 podcasts a day, I can do it, and then collapse at the end and just have a bit of a break, and then
and that's what I loved about our marketing plan. It gave me the confidence to go out there, and you gave me the tools and the encouragement to take that step and speak to local bookstore owners and get my book out to local bookstores, to speak to podcast hosts that share a similar audience where I can share my message through. Your plan and the marketing around it gave me hope, encouragement, and the necessary tools to take those steps. So I think having you in that end of that process, has been so beneficial.
Yeah. Oh, fabulous. So I think I'm going to know what this is already because we've kind of covered it, but can you tell us what your favourite aspect of the book creation process was?
Yeah, definitely the book design. There were so many elements of the book that you shed a lot of light on, coming from, from the font to the way that the book was structured. I think even the cover and the back cover, but the brief that we put together was so comprehensive. And when the designer came back and gave us the book cover designs, this was literally the one that stood out. There was 2 that stood out, but this one, and we just pursued this, and it was just so on point. It was very minimal changes that we made through that process, and I think that's why it was so easy and enjoyable. And my favorite part was because I had the expertise behind me saying, hey, I came across this font. I don't know where you were reading that font. What do you think? And he sent me the clip, and I was like, oh,
something.
It was incredible. I would have never come across that unless, I had it on board. So, and I've had so many comments actually about the book saying it feels incredible. It reads beautifully. Just the design of it is of high quality, and that's what I wanted, and that's what I've got. That's
our amazing designer, Amy DeWolf. She is incredible. I make my briefs very specific to designers because they don't know what we've been through. They don't know the book. We do. So we have to give them as much guidance as we can, as many ideas as we can, but also give the designer creative flow and freedom as well. Because then you're just like, oh my God, I would never have thought of that. But because you've told them who the target market is and you've given them, ideas from other books and just what you're wanting to get across, what the book's main message is, they will take that all on board. But if you don't give them enough information, you will come, things will come back and be like, oh, it's nothing like, why would a 45-year-old woman want to read this? It's too, millennial or something, so that's all really important. And you had actually found this photo for us. You had this, tell us a story about that.
Yeah, so that photo was on my vision board back in 2017, and I remember having it there, and we're going through the brief together, and you're like, oh, are there any inspirational images? I was like, oh, yes, I have to take this one from my vision board, and popped that in the brief. And then Amy reached out to the photographer and got his details, and we got permission to use the photo as well. So to see my image that I had on my vision board, I now know why. It was supposed to go on my book this whole time. So, all these years later. So it's incredible. So I feel like this has been part of me for many years now, even though it's just been launched. But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's just gorgeous. I absolutely love it. Can't stop looking at it. So what would be your least favourite aspect of the production process?
For me, I think because I'm not a journalist or a writer or anything, I think the editing process, I found that quite cumbersome in terms of it. But I also evolved through it as well. There's a lot of restructure of my book that came at the end that I wasn't anticipating. But that's okay. Like, it now reads, beautifully, and I've had a lot of great comments from it. So I think that hard work that I wasn't anticipating in that editing process, that was my least favorite part.
Yes. Well, that leads me on to asking how you dealt with editorial feedback, because I know a lot of people worry about that. They think, this is my baby, I can't handle it. It'll be like being stabbed in the stomach, getting this, I just can't face it, it's too painful. But it doesn't have to be. It's all in how you approach it, isn't it? And also how good your editor is at delivering. I mean, editors have to be diplomats and be kind, because it is such an emotional thing. Yeah. How it's delivered and how you choose to receive it.
Yes.
So how did you?
I think the way I took it was I wasn't attached to it. I had to detach myself from the book, because I now realized I've got my message. Like, the key message is in this book. The way that it's coming across or getting restructured, it doesn't matter. So I think having less attachment to the comments and not taking it personally, knowing that it's just making sure that it's getting the message to my target audience, and these are the changes that we need to make it clearer, to make it more relatable. So I think taking that feedback and detaching yourself from it and not taking it personally was a major factor in editorial feedback. Yeah, because
that's good for feedback in general, isn't it? In life.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I'm not an period of that approach. I'm not an expert in when it comes to editing and doing all that. So I need that feedback, whether it is good or bad. Just
and it is all to help you, isn't it? Because an editor wants your book to be the best reflection of you and your brand. So it's all part of that. Yeah. Oh, beautiful. Oh, it's such a good approach. So tell me, what are your dreams for the book and for its impact on the world and on your business?
Yeah, so I have a dream of reaching 50,000 mums to help them start their day in alignment, so they can make a bigger impact for not only themselves, but their children and the community. And I see this message not only in a book format, I also see it as a group program, and expanding and having this ripple effect at, that individual level, to that community level, to that, global level. I also see the dream not being a sprint. I see it a marathon. I see this book and this message part of my life for years to come. So, and it'll reach the people when they're ready. So that's my dream with the book. Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Well, I hope this has inspired everyone who's thinking of writing a book and have seen you, or if they haven't seen you, they now know about you and the journey that you've gone through. Just inspire them to know that it absolutely is possible and within reach. And it's, it's going to be a journey. I know that's a cliche word, but it's a beautiful journey. And
I was about to say, it is a beautiful journey. Yeah.
There's nothing like holding the book in your hands too. If it's a print book,
that's an incredible feeling too.
Oh gosh, it's unbelievable, that feeling, isn't it?
It
Something
is.
to be proud of and part of your legacy.
That's right. It's one of the greatest legacies that I can leave, behind, and not only for myself, but for my children and for the mums that I'm going to be able to help, hopefully it inspires them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for having me here today
and thank you for having me.
This dual interview.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you so very much.
It has been great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.